that. So crispy. Anyways, here's a speed paint that I promised earlier. It's kind of scuffed, and a lot of it's just me figuring out how perspective works, but enjoy nonetheless. Anyways, voiceover Jackie here, and today we're going to be talking about a piece of writing describing city structures as graphs, specifically things like social relations, geographical locations, and other labels are not tree structures per se, but actually graphs. Let me explain. So, both the tree and the concept of a graph are ways of thinking about how a large collections of many smaller systems to make up a larger and more complex system. But yeah, so in this article talking about why cities are not trees, they give examples of urban neighborhoods that are basically just trees. For example, in Columbia, Maryland, the neighborhoods are in clusters of 5 and they form kind of villages, and they have transportation that joins the villages into a new town. So it's kind of like a bottom-up approach where you have these neighborhoods that are grouped into villages, and these villages are grouped into towns, and that kind of forms a tree structure. Another example that the author points out is Hilberseimer's book, The Nature of Cities, describing certain Roman towns and how they had their origins in military camps. The symbol's pretty apt because the organization of the army is designed specifically for top-down order in order to create discipline and rigidity, right? So kind of seeing how even once again the military-industrial complex is at play here. Anyways, haircut break. It's literally just 2 buildings down because they just have a barber's nearby. But yeah, jokes, they were closed, so we are going to another one. Okay, that was shorter than I would have liked, but welcome back. Today we are abolishing hierarchies. One thing that the article talked extensively about is how a lot of our structures and ways of thinking are not necessarily tree-like, but are actually graphs, but we just suck at thinking about them in terms of graphs. But yeah, because when we look at a tree, it's actually a very restrictive structure. It means that in this structure, there's no piece of any single unit that's ever connected to other units, except for through its parent. With this in mind, because trees are kind of restrictive, why don't we use graphs for more things? Well, it turns out that visualizing and exploring and thinking about graphs in general is just a very difficult problem. The example that the article used was to try and imagine an orange, a watermelon, a football, and a tennis ball. How would you keep all of these in your head? You can try, but the only way you can really be successful is by grouping them. Maybe you group 2 fruits and 2 sports balls together. Maybe you group it by size, so like 2 small spheres and 2 large spheres. But try as hard as you like, you cannot imagine both of these 2 trees at the same time, because they inherently form a semi-lattice structure, and unfortunately for us, it is very difficult to hold a semi-lattice in your own head. And this is the part where I start thinking maybe tools like knowledge graphs come in. They allow us to kind of better visually explore these graph relations and allow us to capture more complex relations in things, like one-to-many and many-to-one, and so on. The regular note-taking apps like Notion are just very hierarchical in nature and linear. You have nested folders, but it's very hard to backlink across them and track that. Right? So that's where graph representations like Rome Research and Obsidian, for example, that I've been obsessing over recently, allows us to make, I think, non-obvious and non-hierarchical connections between different concepts. But yeah, that's end of my rant. I'm pretty excited to see how my Obsidian Vault expands over time. Yeah. Anyways, this nears the end of my drawing, so I will shut up now. But yeah, Anson, I'll see you on Friday.